But nonetheless, in 2023, we set up the Sierra Leone Mines and Minerals Development Management Corporation, purely for this reason, to be able to, one, carry government's commercial interest in the sector, two, to be allocated assets, mineral assets, be it for exploration or for mine development, so that they can form partnership and joint ventures with various various investors, to own a state mining company. And thirdly, all mining-related infrastructure, say for example, we have the rail and ports running from Ferembaya to Pepel, for which the government has some stake, 10% free carried interest in most mining companies, so that entity manages it. But here is the challenge. As I've always said, financial. Most of these mining companies, these are private companies. They go to either commercial banks to take loan. Most of our money that we rely on to run the state are actually chaperoned by World Bank and IMF with a lot of conditionalities. Most of the commercial banks will not give any Sierra Leone government entity money on those commercial terms. The reason being, we don't have a sovereign credit rating. Other countries do have, but that's something the Ministry of Finance is still working towards. So having access to that finance to develop the mines is a problem. We tried that model. I'm sure you know about the Mineral Wealth Fund that was set up, but President is wisdom earlier this year, because of governance, architecture, integration with the investment policy, our fiscal policies, and with the changing dynamics in the world taking place, we have to basically cancel that and now trying to set up a sovereign wealth fund, such that first, the government can actually get some money to plow into the sector like any other investor. As I speak, every revenue that is generated from the mining sector goes into the Treasury single account, for which salaries and so many other things are taken care of. Even though the Public Finance Management Act makes the provision for that, for us to ring-fence revenues from the extractive sector, not only from solid minerals, but petroleum as well. So that goes into an escrow account. And then we have the Transformation and Development Stabilization Fund to be used for developmental projects, and then also to use that to invest. That's one, how you have access to finance. Secondly, you also need the human resources. You know, anybody who goes to a mining company, you realize there are legal people, there are financial people, there are technical people, there are geoscientists, you have administrators, you need that. The Sierra Leone Mines and Minerals Development Corporation has just been set up for a few years. Kudos to the entire executive there. They're still looking for partnerships to put this together. So the idea that we'll go back to the days of NDMC is still in the pipeline. But we need, grow organically. We have to learn again or relearn, and also unlearn some of the things that we did that we failed. Before NDMC, there was SLST. SLST, NDMC came in, government got 51% stake, we ran it as NDMC. Sierra Leoneans took over, it became overtly politicized, and it failed. Since then, we've not had one. We're still looking at what's happening in other jurisdictions to learn from their mistakes as well and see how we can do that. So I do believe that will happen. Back to the Kwedu issue, whether I do not see Kwedu coming back again, that's just my own professional judgment when I look at all the parameters that companies normally need to do to say, look, technically it's been the risk, financially it's been the risk, socially it's been the risk. On all of those parameters, Kwedu fails at the moment. So I don't see that happening, but maybe, you never know, we are trying. Currently, the diamond industry is down because of lab-grown diamonds. So the market itself is not conducive for them. So they are finding it very hard, even without that incident. We are always going to find it hard, and this is not only peculiar to Sierra Leone, but generally to all diamond-producing countries. So it's a double whammy. The market is down, social capital is lost.
Let's go quickly to local content. For the first time, Rutile is owned by Sierra Leonean after Tunde Cole bought 100% of the shares. What impact do you see this having in the mining sector? A mining company owned 100% by a Sierra Leonean.
As you ask him that question, I could feel some chill. It's one of my proudest moments, and I'm extremely happy. Since I've been in this sector, I've always said that in the sector, no matter which investment by Kingo, by Marampa, by other foreign companies, until we have Sierra Leoneans, take that entrepreneurial step. First, we have to discover our somebodyness and our mindset that we are also investors. The country belongs to us. So to have Sierra Leoneans stepping up, coming into the mining sector, especially displacing Iluka, which is a massive Australian company, it's one of my most proudest moments. I mean, kudos to Tunde Cole and his directors that they took that bold step. And I will say this, we are inviting Sierra Leoneans, wherever you are, in the diaspora back home, have that belief that you too can be investors. I've seen so many dodgy investors chaperoned by Sierra Leoneans to my office. Oh, this is an investor. Oh, please help him or something. I said, no, I'm here to help you. But we haven't got that belief. So what Tunde Cole has done with Sierra Rutile, I think is exemplary. It's something we should replicate. And that just didn't happen in a vacuum. Again, they have to take risk. We had a lot of engagement. We supported them, and we're happy to do that. Furthermore, they couldn't just do that. They came in with a new paradigm shift, which was to look at the local banks to ensure they have access to that finance. I don't know if you are following the news in South Africa. We are there. EcoBank actually provided a loan facility of $40 million. And not only to Sierra Rutile, but to me, a mining company as well, who is mining diamond. It's unprecedented. Most times, people go out of the country to get access to finance. But EcoBank, I mean, I take my hat off to them. I was in Toronto recently. We also had a meeting with Vista Bank. They are doing similar thing in Guinea, and they are also interested in Sierra Leone. Recently, I had a conversation with UBA Bank, and it's good to see that the local banks are now taking the risk, and we're helping them the risk to have Sierra Leoneans come into the sector. We have to develop our young men and young women. It doesn't mean that unless you own a mining company, but also in the tapestry of the management of this mining companies, Sierra Leoneans should be there. But that will not happen again by magic, not by prayers, not by fasting, not by binding and casting. You have to get the requisite knowledge, skills, expertise, the attitude, behavior, and character, which I always talk about. We have a lot of graduates coming up, but are devoid of those. And the Mining Week, we have a special booth for that to make sure young men and young women who want to come into the mining sector, especially women, see a future and then see a trajectory that, look, it's not just going to attend Mining Week to talk about speeches. But here, we've met career advisors who can tell us, how can I become a geologist? How can I become a geophysicist? How can I become a metallurgist? How can I become a financial controller in a mining company? And when we do that, and I'm sure once they are beaten by the bug of entrepreneurship, they will sit down and look, that this is not magic. If a Chinese entity can come from abroad, an Indian entity, and come and establish and run successfully, why can't we do it as Sierra Leoneans? And this is not only peculiar to the mining sector. Before I even got into governance, I was an entrepreneur. I also used to work for somebody, for a government in the UK. The same mindset. I used to say, all the skills I have, so I'm just working for somebody else. Maybe let me return home and take the plunge. And I have no regrets. And every now and then I talk to my colleagues as well. You know, the skill set that we have as Sierra Leoneans, nobody's coming to build this country for us. We have to do it ourselves.
Mr. Minister,
we can grumble as much as we like, blame the World Bank, blame the IMF, blame the foreigners that we are taking raw materials and sending them out. These are businesses. If they know they have a pool of resources they can tap into and get the same quality in terms of products and services, they want to maximize their profits. Why would they not use it? But no, we are running into governance, and we do believe it's a shortcut. So one of the things we'll be doing there's a whole session on youth, women in mining, how to access finance, you know, the infrastructure and energy to ensure we do that.
These are things we've been talking about for a very long time now. Yeah. You know, women in the mining sector, ensuring that, you know, minerals benefit the ordinary person, youth in mining. What will be different, you know, when this mining week will be held? At the end of the day, is it not just going to be another workshop or conference or symposium where people will come, invite people from abroad, you know, investors come and make speeches at the end of the day and nothing comes out?
You see, let me say this, and I will not delude myself sitting here thinking this event next week is the magic wand or the silver bullet that is going to solve all mining problems in this country, for the youth, for the women, for the investors, for the community. It's work in progress. Our educational system, that's why we're inviting the academia to come there. You know, over my career, I've seen a lot of people who are well-schooled. You know, gone through primary, secondary, universities, got degrees, but not educated. And I've seen educated people as well, who might not have been well-schooled. So it goes beyond just the institutions themselves, the academic institutions. We have people, we have talent, yes, who might not need degrees or PhDs, but they can work as electricians, welders, plumbers, steel benders. They can work as drillers. These are practical skills needed in mining companies. So vocational training is extremely important. Now, you just mentioned, okay, maybe this is just one of those. As I mentioned earlier, this mining week I see it as national ambition meeting mining potential and prospect. So it means we have to own it not just as an event, but see it as a national pride. I'm the chairman of the African Diamond Producers Association. We are having several, currently over 14 confirmed from countries. It means they have confidence in Sierra Leone. It means Sierra Leone is also now playing its role in leadership in terms of mineral resources. We have critical minerals discussion going on. We have a whole panel on that. So for me, for that to happen, we have already started this long ago from the NMA, and that's happening at the ministry. We are bringing in young men and young women from the university doing internship at the NMA. They will take them to the mining companies. Recently, when we went back to Ferenbaya, the young lady engineer at Leone Rock was the one giving presentation to His Excellency. After that, we had a conversation about that. A very proud moment. So this thing starts from the formative years. Yeah, not only at a mining booth during mining week. And we have a lot of work to do, and we are doing that. That's why we said we are working with academia, we have to work with vocational institutions, we also have to work with sister MDAs. When we develop that pool of young men and young women, well energized, motivated, yeah, inspired, and empowered, I think we'll now be on that stage. Some of them will not just be technicians, but also become entrepreneurial.
Is the mining week open to all? Or only those in the mining sector?
No, the mining week is free. You have to register. It's for investors, it's for service providers from the public and private sector, it's for the communities, the chiefs, the school children, everybody. You have to register. And I will appeal to everybody, do so soon, because we are running out of space to accommodate everybody. There's also going to be exhibition. All major mining companies are going to be there. Service providers from the banks, most of the banks are going to be there. We have also those who provide services, consulting firms. We have academia. We have those who basically are just interested in mining sector. Women, we're pushing that we have a whole session, women in mining. Because for me, inclusiveness in the mining sector, we have to be very inclusive, to cut across everything. From extraction, from exploration to extraction to manufacturing. So it's open to everybody. And it's not only plenary sessions we're going to have there. There are going to be exhibitions. There are going to be, even the NMA and the ministry will have booths, the various directorates, to showcase what they have and how you can enter the sector. Of course, all work and role play makes Jack a dull boy. We have cocktails sponsored by most of the major sponsors. Bravura, we have a cocktail on Wednesday by Leone Rock, Thursday by EcoBank, Friday by Bravura, and then we cap all of that with an outdoor concert, because this is a national movement, national pride, bringing in technical policy expertise with people of Sierra Leone. So we have an indoor concert at Chapter 1 nightclub to ensure that all the hard work we've done, that there's something to rejoice about. This is a national movement. And when we have all these ministers from various African countries, for the ADPA, we are talking about, the ADPA members, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Namibia, Angola, Zambia, South Africa, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, and then the observers. We have Algeria, we have Gabon, we have Russia, we have Mauritania, and then, of course, Mozambique, which is also an observer in India. When you have those, it shows that people have confidence in our leadership, the leadership of His Excellency the President, who is also ECOWAS chairman. We saw just a few weeks ago, we had the West African Integration and Investment Summit attended again by so many people. Some of them are going to be here. So we have to be very hopeful as Sierra Leoneans. I've always said our biggest achievement in the mining sector is still ahead of us. We are laying the foundation. Mistakes that we've committed are generational. The solution is also going to be generational. It cannot be solved by one minister or by one ministry, but all of us here, I've always said the mindset is extremely important. When we see ourselves as investors, as owners, and we take ownership of our own development in the mining sector, and that integrates with other sectors, I think we'll be moving places.
As we close, earlier on you saw from the excerpt that we played, you listened to the concerns of the youth. What will change in the next 365 days? After we've had this discussion today, what will be the assurance to the ordinary Sierra Leonean that, coming the next year or years, we'll start realizing the benefits of our minerals, or the youthful population will start seeing, their contribution and progress when it comes to the natural resources that we have?
Good question, but I will segment it this way. You said within 360 days. I would say, when we are looking at the mining, mining is a long-term investment. So we have the short-term, medium-term, and long-term. So I'll put it that way. One of the major events taking place at the Mining Week is the launch of the National Strategy for Critical Minerals in Sierra Leone. You know, for so long, when you talk to people, they'll tell you gold, bauxite, diamond, and rutile. Yes, it's true. Just after the war, diamond was responsible for nearly 97% of our total export from this country, because all the other sectors were down. With time, bauxite came on together with Sierra rutile. By 2018, Sierra rutile was the major contributor, rutile, to the mineral export from this country. Why? Because by then, African Minerals and London Mining have closed. But by 2011, 12, 13, prior to Ebola, iron ore was the largest exporter. At one point, it was contributing to 25% of our GDP. And everybody was saying, wow, this is great. But when Ebola came, the double whammy of Ebola and the commodity prices, they shut down. So by the time my government got into power 2018, there was not a single iron ore export from this country, not 2020, not 2019, we started in 2021. As I speak now, iron ore is responsible for nearly 70 to 80%. So these changes are always going to happen. Next year, 2027, when Bauman Gold Project by FG Gold and the one in Kumahun by Gold Lion come into production, we'll be exporting roughly 11 tons of gold from this country. Just those two at the current price, we'll be talking about 1.6, 1.7 billion total export. So now, the critical minerals, for so long we've made mistakes. You know, somebody mentioned here, from 1930 we are mining iron ore at Lonsa right up to 1975. Diamond, you just mentioned NDMC, we are the results. You know, Mokanji, bauxite, we are the results. So we've learned from all those mistakes. So we've come up with a strategy. And these are basically the minerals. Now everybody, they have different nomenclature. Critical minerals, energy minerals, here and there. We've come up with a strategy to ensure that the mistakes from the past and the demand by the world in terms of energy, electric vehicles, technology, that we learn from those mistakes and now craft a strategy. So all the minerals we are talking about here, which lithium, platinum group elements, chromite, coltan, rutile, bauxite, iron ore, and the rest, and the new ones which we do believe we have occurrences of, we want to ensure that this time value addition takes place. It's not just shipping the raw materials. So if we actually participate in value addition, where we multiply the value, that cascades into the community. And along, it creates jobs, dignified jobs. It means the young men and young women who are coming on board in the next 365 days you talked about, things will happen. We're going to build, in the next 365 days already, plans are in place for doing pre-feasibility studies to have a mineral separation plant in the southwest of Sierra Leone. Currently, we have a lot of heavy mineral sands being produced. They're just being sent as a cocktail of zircon, ilmenite, and rutile, but that will be separating here, creating jobs. Kingo is already planning to have pelletization plants and also to produce steel in Tonkolili. That will create jobs. Marampa is doing a similar thing. There are conversations also for bauxite to convert that to alumina. That's a process. So that's happening. And then when you look at the strategy that we have, we also want to make sure environmental and social governance issues are taken on board. Local content policies are taken on board. The young men and young women are brought into the fray. And then we have strategic partnerships because we are not on our own. We cannot do this on our own. Critical minerals have become extremely topical. For us, it's not about either going with the West or going with the East. I've always said we look upward and forward as Sierra Leoneans. So we are not picking, you're British, you're American, you're this and that, or you're Chinese. No. We need to develop our country. And wherever we do believe it fits our own purpose, our own values, and our dignity, that's what we want to do. And also, finally, shared prosperity. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense if we do all of this and some benefits are accruing to only some few individuals. We have to make sure this is done equitably and inclusively, that every community where mining takes place, that every Sierra Leonean who is basically a stakeholder in our mineral resources, they have a say. And we manage it transparently. That's why we are part of the EITI, the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, to make sure the proceeds are distributed and reported accordingly. So in the short term, we are on that plan. In the medium term, I do believe once we work with the academia, we develop the skills of our young men and young women, and they have the confidence, they have the determination, and they've, the patriotism to see that these are our Sierra Leoneans, and we have entrepreneurs coming in. I think we'll start multiplying the benefit. That's why we have in our theme value multiplication. In the long term, I see Sierra Leone that has been so resilient and we'll be so determined. We have youthful population that I know will be transformed into very patriotic, well-educated, determined citizens, taking our ownership and our development in our hands. We'll no longer be celebrating that World Bank or IMF has given us loan to build a school of 1 million, 2 million, but rather our mineral resources start working for us as wealth. We feel dignified, we feel proud, and we will say, yes, we made mistakes, but we've learned from them. And we have to do that with some fortitude and some determination.
All right, thank you very much. He's Julius Matai, the Minister of Mines and Mineral Resources. We've been talking here this morning on AYV Wake Up Sierra Leone. Let's take a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, we go into our second segment of the show.
More and more people are using Rokel SIM Copper Plus in their everyday lives. Did you hear that? She just transferred money for her daughter's school fees. And this man just paid for some products. Ah, Mr. Abu, are you sending money to your wife again?
Yes, Rokel SIM Copper.
Ah.
Yes, like having money in my pocket.
Ah, excellent.
Thank you.
He just bought some eggs. The world is digital, so keep up with the times. Have you got a payment to make? If so, just download Rokel SIM Copper Plus now. You can download the Rokel SIM Copper Plus app from Apple iStore and iPad or Google Play Store for Android users. You see, it's fast, safe and reliable.
It is essential to recognize that our mineral resources are abundant and infrastructural development is crucial, especially in our local mining communities.
Welcome back. This is Wake Up Sierra Leone on AYV television and radio. Before we move to the final segment for this morning, let's join Ransford McLean in sports for Sports Update this morning in Studio 2. Good morning, Ransford.
Very good morning, Phoebe. Thank you very much for having me on sports this morning. Of course, our first story, the Sierra Leone Football Association has announced to the general public that the application window for Leone Stars head coach position closed on Tuesday, 12th May 2026. A total of 79 applications were received, comprising 3 from local candidates and 76 from overseas applicants. According to the statement, the technical committee and the technical department are currently reviewing all submissions. The Football Association has noted that shortlisted candidates will be contacted in due course to proceed to the next stage of the selection process, which involve interviews as well. And so another story, East End Lions Football Club have progressed to the semi-finals of the Sierra Leone Football Association FA Cup following a decision by the SLFA FA Cup Disciplinary Committee. The committee awarded the match to Eastern Lions Football Club, allowing the 2-1 scoreline against Star Sports Academy to stand. The fixture had been abandoned in the 86th minute due to crowd disturbances, pitch invasion, and violence involving persons associated with both clubs. As a result, Star Sports Academy received a fine of 5,000 leones, while Samba Kanu, known as Ofi, was handed a 6-match ban and a fine of 8,000 leones for his alleged role in the incitement the trouble. Furthermore, the players Abdul Bundu Kamara and Abu Bakar A. Kamara were each given 3-match suspension and a fine of 2,000 leones for acts of violent conduct. East End Lions Football Club were also fined 5,000 leones for their failure to manage and control their supporters. Separately, in a statement dated 13th May 2026, Star Sports Academy noted their formal acceptance of the committee's verdict. The club expressed deep regret over the incident, reaffirming their ongoing decision to upholding discipline, fair play, and professionalism within football. They strongly condemn any act of violence, intimidation, or unruly behavior, and called upon the fans, players to follow suit. And finally, all Edwardians Football Club have definitely paid respect to their player Kaku, who've passed away some few days ago. They've signed a book of condolence for him, and officials was there to pay the last respect for the number 15 player Kaku. Sasso Moyumba was there and put together this report.
In a solemn and deeply moving gathering held at St. Edward's School grounds, players, officials, and devoted fans sat with heavy hearts to sign a book of condolence in memory of beloved midfielder and right back Abraham Sin Kamara, whose sudden passing has left an irreplaceable void in the club's soul. One by one, hands that once clapped for him now trembled as they inscribed tributes, memories, and final words for a man who gave everything to the blue and white.
I use that back to say thank you to your team, to Edwardian men family. They are very true Edwardian. You don't serve this team, and there's not a better way for serve than for even give you picking for even after school you continue to play for this team.
Commissioner Richard Indolo Senesi, chairman for All Edwardians Football Club, has retired in number 15 jersey and called on all players to give him a lasting peace by winning the Leone Premier League.
with the power vested in me as chairman, I'm going to retire as chancellor. Number 15, Johnson. There got the agreement. With him. Rest in peace, buddy. The only way when I go for satisfaction is gentleman. Like I win this Premier League. It's possible.
As the book closes, so too does a glorious...
That is it for sports this morning on Wake Up Sierra Leone. And over to you, Phoebe Swale and Victor Bokai Matia in the main studio.
All right, thank you very much, Ransford McLean, for the sport updates this morning. Well, now to our next segment, to SMEs. The economy of Sierra Leone relies heavily on small and medium enterprises to drive innovation, provide livelihood, and fuel development, especially within the informal sector. While SMEs offer immense promise for growth and poverty reduction, they often struggle to upscaling up due to structural constraints. And despite their importance, SMEs frequently face serious difficulties in accessing loans from commercial banks. And these challenges include high interest rates, lack of collateral, poor financial records, and of course, limited credit history, stringent lending requirements, and banks' perceptions about SMEs as high-risk borrowers. As a result, many SMEs struggle to secure the capital needed for expansion, modernization, and daily operations. And of course, the effect of limited access to bank loans are far-reaching. It restricts businesses. It also reduces productivity, limits job creation, and increases the likelihood of business failure. On a broader scale, however, this weakens economic growth, it reduces tax revenue, and slows national development. So therefore, improving SMEs' access to finance remains essential for sustaining economic progress and strengthening the overall economy of the country. This morning, to discuss ways to improve the economy through SMEs, amongst other things, we have in our studios Sori Sulaiman Sise. He's a development economist, public sector reform specialist, and international development practitioner with over 2 decades of experience in economic management, decentralization, rural development, and donor-funded programs in Sierra Leone. We also have in our studios Abraham Nicholas Kamara, the CEO, Vision Investment, Digital Entrepreneurship, coach and mentor, and also lecturer at IPAM University of Sierra Leone. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to AYB.
Yes. Good morning, everybody.
And Nicholas, we've been discussing SMEs for a very long time now here on AYB and even on personal note. But I would want to know how significant, again, are SMEs, to the country's economic survival and future growth?
Thanks so much to the viewers. Let me just expand on who are SMEs and their owners. SMEs are small-scale businesses that are owned by locals who manages those businesses that's not more than 20 based on the industry and sector in which he operates. And according to Dr. Sandis in his research in 1991, he said SMEs serve as a backbone, the engine that lays the foundation for transformation out of innovation, tech, and any other mass production that anybody can think about. But before going further, let me say this. Managing and running SME in Sierra Leone is like a roller coaster. I always describe that when I go into the media, even when I engage my students, how does managing and owning an SME is like a roller coaster life. We have what we call external shocks, we have invisible enemies, we have emotional disease that are affecting your daily life. Being an SME for the past a decade plus now, managing business from scratch, right there from high school, from a backpack, on to at a kiosk, on to a wheelbarrow, on to now having a true establishment, managing not less than 15 graduates in my premises for the past 10 years. I want to say here, SME, to me, is like it's a backbone for economic transformation. It serves as a foundation for building any government manifestos and execution of youth entrepreneurship mindset. But I always say it seems like a myth. Because when you look at the opportunities, I was listening to the Minister of Mines when he was here. You look at most of the discussions are more of at multinationals and foreign direct investment. When you look at the opportunities that are given to the young people in terms of exploring other sensitive areas of part of the economy that really, really matters, comes a challenge. When you look at, I'm doing now a challenge, when you look at most of the SME, we that are in the SMEs, we are more on clothing, textiles, fashion. And these are what we call, these are risk-bearing investment that have a low IOS, real return on investment. When you look at a real infrastructural SME-driven part, I want to be corrected, I realize that few Sierra Leoneans own small-scale businesses or small-scale companies that are operating in those deep areas that really, really generate revenues that can serve as a real catalyst for change, as is happening in the US, as happening not in East Africans or North Africans. You understand? Where we saw, for instance, in Kigali, we saw SME graduate youth who have a vast access to mineral resources, have a vast access to agriculture, have a vast access to having a financing in tech and innovation. Check within the line of Sierra Leone. I mean, of us that have a digital tech hub that is owned by Sierra Leoneans. And most of the projects that are coming, they give them to the foreign multinational companies. So leaving us who have the passion, the pains, to struggle to see how can we transform principles, knowledge into reality. Going down to the agriculture, ask yourself how many real Sierra Leoneans who owns a pond, a fishing pond. These are the new drives, the new shifts, the new mind shifts. That it's not all about selling boutique, not about selling fashion, it's not about TikTokers. But these are gray areas that need attention of young graduates. But the quality, if I may quote the Minister of Mines who was here, we have a lot of Sierra Leoneans educated, but they don't have the skills gap. So the matter is like a matter of fact is mixed bag. That's why owning and managing SMEs in Sierra Leone is like what a roller coaster.
Let me bring in Suleiman. Now, once Nicholas was talking about the SMEs being the backbone, he also mentioned a critical analysis that most of the SMEs we have are concentrated into a particular trade or fashion an area. Most SMEs are fashion, or cosmetic, clothing line, etc., etc. We're now moving into fish pond and agriculture, as the case may be. But would you say access to fund is what is limiting most SMEs to only a particular area of trade? Because if I want an SME right now or small business, if I don't have access to the capital from a bank, I don't have the collateral, I'll go where I can empower myself through my own financial needs. It's easier for me to buy clothes from Turkey or from China and sell than ask a bank, say, for example, give me $50,000 loan. The bank will not give me. So in that case, I will not go into agriculture or I will not go into fish pond. So is that what is limiting SMEs to only a particular trade or area?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And let me join my brother in extending greetings to our people listening to us. This is a very important conversation. When we talk about SMEs, the description might look like we're talking about strange people. But we're actually talking about small people engaged in businesses. Maybe market women, maybe transporters, maybe boutique owners. They can be salons. They can be farmers in the agricultural sector. So we are really talking about those people who sustain our homes and sustain our communities. And that is why, for me, that conversation is very, very important. Because if we don't get it right, we are basically depriving ourselves. I mean, the economy might be something big, but we are talking about even the homes and our communities. You start from there. If we're able to get it right, then it contributes overall to the economy as well. So it's a very important thing that we all should pay attention to. And like I always say, development has to be a deliberate process. What has been happening so far is that we leave this to the thinking and efforts of those people we call small businesses. They have to think hard for themselves, go through all of the hurdles to be able to make their businesses successful. We have to move, realizing that the future of Sierra Leone's economy may not necessarily just be in the hands of the few big businesses that we're talking about, but it's when we actually deepen that across our communities, particularly the small and medium scale enterprises. And I will tell you, the challenge has not just been finance. Because if you want that sector to grow, it's not just finance. It's about developing their capacity to even make better use of the finance that you provide to them. And so, in my line of work, we worked with some farmers who are businesses, some marketers who are businesses. We realized that even giving them access to finance would not solve their problems if you don't help them organize themselves better, you don't help them keep records, you don't open access for them to markets. Because again, it all boils down to where they sell their produce. So if I bring my produce, if I'm in the agricultural sector, or if I'm selling the market, if I cannot sell what I produce, it becomes difficult for me to be able to effectively utilize the financing provided to me. And if it is financing that comes from formal financial institutions, even repaying for those finances that I get becomes a challenge. So it's about that deliberate process of going through all of those different processes to help those businesses operate at profitable level. That is what we need to focus on and not just look at this as a financial problem. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll come right back to you, Suleiman. Let's come to Nicholas again. We have a growing number of SMEs right across the country, but there are also people who are graduates and unemployed. Some of these SMEs, because they are SMEs, again, by the nature of its very establishment, they need certain skill sets that they don't have. Take, for example, someone running a shop needs the services of an accountant. We have graduates every year who struggle to get jobs, but SMEs require those services. How do we merge them in a way that it becomes a win-win? It helps with solving unemployment issues, and these SMEs that require some of these expertise really get to them. You can't be the CEO with just maybe, say, cosmetics, for example. Your passion is cosmetology. The idea to put the materials together, or owning a boutique, for example, you need someone balancing the books. How do we merge these opportunities?
That comes to the real challenge which I've faced, and even when I'm doing my present research and working with other collaborators in terms of development partnership. Like my elder brother where they said, it's about finance as being the problem of SMEs now. It's about seeking SMEs and entrepreneurship as an avenue towards what poverty elevation. As you said, we have over 55,000 Sierra Leonean graduates who are roaming in the cities without having a decent job. But they don't see SME owners or enterprises as a place of employment. I've suffered that one. I'm still in the suffering, wherein I have a platform that I call a mentorship and a coaching. I also give internship and volunteerism. People who come, they will spend the 6 months. In their own 6 months, even if you say them step on you, they will do. They will listen to you, they will dance to it. After the first 6 months to 1 year, they started being a challenger to put on things. They will tell you that I'm just working because of what? I mean, I don't want to be an idle person at home. So the passion, the anxiety, the pain for them to endure, to work with you, for you to expand on your idea. Like he said, if I may quote Elon Musk, he said no business person can continue to grow alone. You have a different ideas, collaboration. For instance, you might have an entrepreneurship mindset to start a small salon, an hairdresser, but you need what? A business and marketing skills person to help you amplify and sell out those products. Then, when you approach them to come and aid that process, they will tell you, I only work for 1,500,000. They will tell you, I'm not working for that for 2,000. They will give you conditions that...
And sadly, yes, some of the big corporations, they end up seeking employment from.
That's the same salary they are going to pay them.
It's the same salary they get paid.
So I'm coming there. That's the mismatch of labor. That's why I said, I mean, running an enterprise, SME enterprise, is like a roller coaster, riding a roller coaster. It's a funny thing. I was exposed to like reviewing over 52 big companies in Sierra Leone 2023 to 2025 as a local consultant in one of these leading consultancy firms. I realized that by then I was paying some of my staff 1,500, some I'm paying them 2,000. Then there's too much of argumentative fighting about salary increment, condition of service, our working services are too long. Then I was exposed to big companies. I asked one of the ladies, he said she has worked in one of the offices for over 7 good years. She's earning 1,750. Then I have somebody who have just worked for me for 3 years, telling me that the 2,000 I'm paying her is a chicken change. I said, wow. So that gives me confidence. I said, wow. Then that doesn't even stop there. Coming now, how could they serve as a recipe towards this jobless as a labor mismatch? It's about mentorship, coaching, and mind shifts. like the minister rightly said here, until we Sierra Leone young people realize that the mining, the minerals, those orthodox philosophy has failed the young people. To looking at the shift of art, the new normal, which I call the new normal, the shift in technology, the shift to art in entrepreneurship, the shift to art in marketing, in drama, stand-up comedy. We see 20 years down the line, who can pay for a stand-up comedy? We saw what Kido Amani did in Bintumani. He gathered one of the topmost Sierra Leoneans in one seat on a comedy show. 20 years down the line, do you realize that that was happening here? So that mind shift needs what? A collaborative effort of young people to come in to form a partnership. But there comes in again the attitude, behavior, and what, and passion. And the alignment of one's another.
Collaboration, Suleiman, interestingly, not long ago I had a conversation with a young man who, he now rides a keke. And he was saying to me, he holds 2 BA degrees, 2. He is a graduate, he had gotten employment somewhere, and then he realized this employment thing comes sort of like packaging, where people are so, especially young graduates, they want to get a job just to say, I work this place or that
big
place.
Offices.
Dressing nicely to go to big offices. And then he highlighted some of the issues that when you even check what you're earning as a salary from these institutions and you check what you're paying monthly, whether in the form of transportation or your basic needs, feeding, you'd realize that there's a disparity. At the end of the day, you have to source money from other places just to top up to be able to get yourself going to work every day. He says he stopped working and went into keke riding. Now he owns 3 kekes and he's still riding one of them. And he got other young people to run his keke. He holds 2 degrees. He's riding a keke. But as Nicholas is saying, mindset shifting. How do we run with this idea, this concept, to the wider population in the country? Where do we begin to implement these ideas and transformation?
So, we have big opportunities. Like we already stated, we have a cadre of graduates who are schooled already and are ready to jump into the job market. But we also have huge opportunities for them to enter into businesses. But the mindset, like we are saying, has not yet been attuned to that concept of business. It's all about doing blue-collar jobs that they are called. But like I said, as a nation, we have to consider this a big responsibility to help tilt the mindset in that direction, starting with the training itself. If all of the training that students get through university is more on the academics, and then we expect them after graduation to start thinking business, it becomes an issue. So for that keke rider, maybe the realities of life would have shifted him to think as such. But I think we have to be able to nurture our students right from the way we train them to have a business mindset. I mean, I tell my mentees over the years that the country has changed significantly. I mean, during our days, from university, what you think about, I mean, as an economist, you think about working in the Bank of Sierra Leone, working in the Ministry of Finance, working in Statistics Sierra Leone, and I tell them, over the years, things have changed. And all of the people I work with, my young people that I mentor, even as you're in the university, you have to start thinking about what business you'd want to set up for yourself. I mean, realizing that every single hour you spend on your own business, you're actually building experience, you're building capacity that will help you down the road. I mean, our brother here just mentioned the struggles that he went through. And now he has establishments that is employing people. All of the time he has put in that is contributing to his business. Whilst if you are working for an agency, what you live there with is just that experience that you come with. If you leave that employment and you want to start somewhere else, you're going back to start. And then earning salaries again every month. So I think we have to be very deliberate in that process, realizing that we have these opportunities to be able to bridge these people together, starting from how we train our students, and then also being very deliberate in bringing up programs that will let them learn in that process. I mean, I managed a regional program a couple of years back, and we took some of our people to Nigeria at IITA, the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture. They had a program, a youth agripreneurship scheme, in which they would take different graduates in law, in engineering, in business, all across, and give them seed money to start businesses. And they will send them into the remote places. And we were told that the thinking is not for them to even succeed in that first attempt. They don't care whether they fail or not, but they would think that by the time they go through that system, those who fail would have learned what led them to failure. And when they leave that program, if it is 1 year, 6 months, if it is 2 years, and they come back, they are different people, because they would have come with a different mindset from that approach of just going in for employment. And I think we have to be that deliberate. There have been programs, I mean, it's not like we are not doing anything as a country. There have been programs that I'm aware of to help change this kind of thinking. But it's a laborious process. It's very challenging. It's not any simple thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, similarly, in part of my work, we work with SMEs. And government, through the World Bank funding, was providing grants. We call them matching grants to them. So you have some portion of free money available, and these people have opportunities to access those funds and implement programs. And then you struggle to get people to apply for those, meeting those conditions, because some of them are matching grants. You have to meet some portion of that fund. But also you should be able to demonstrate that you have a sound business idea that you must implement. And so for me, it's that process that we have to undertake and not leave it in the hands of just the graduates or young people around, even if not just the university graduates, young people around generally. We have to handhold them, realizing that when we go through that process, we're helping to reduce poverty, like he said, but we're also setting up ourselves to have that engine that we call of our economy to be strong enough to be able to, one, provide employment for our people, two, ensuring that the livelihoods of these people and their communities is assured, three, they are able to pay taxes to government. It helps government's revenue generation drive as well. And overall, it strengthens us as a country. That is the focus that we have to have as a people, and we have to approach it collectively.
So Suleiman Sise, do we need to look at other African countries and replicate what they're doing? I'm asking because there seems to be a shift wave in how other countries deal with SMEs. So, for instance, in Ethiopia, I stand to be corrected, SMEs are only run by Ethiopians. If you're a foreigner, it will be nearly impossible for you to run an SME. And we are seeing what's happening in South Africa. There's a complaint that most of the SMEs in South Africa are being run by foreigners. Should other African countries as well start thinking in that direction to, in order, you've just spoken of seed money is available. But then at the end of the day, if you have a Sierra Leonean and you have someone who is also an SME an investor from another country, do you see the Sierra Leonean beating that person in that market? You know, as where we are now. You know, you look at shops that are being owned by and run by Sierra Leoneans and shops that are being owned and run by Nigerians or Lebanese, for example, or Indians. How do you compare, or where are those SMEs? Do they survive? Again, you also stated that you do not think that access to financing is the only thing. You also talked about, you know, the human capacity, you know, the development, the training, you know, so also people learning from their mistakes. Those coming in, maybe they've had investment in their countries that failed, they've now learned from their mistakes, but you have Sierra Leoneans who are just coming from IPAM, from Fabi College, who do not even know how to operate computers, who do not even understand what is balance sheet or how to count their profits at the end of the day, and they want to go into, you know, SMEs. How do you balance that?
Again, Sierra Leone does not operate in isolation. We cannot lock this country up and say it's only for Sierra Leoneans. I mean, there are Sierra Leoneans who operate in other parts of the world as well. But then, we have to be deliberate as a people to ensure that if there are what we call small, which we can encourage our people to do, why should we leave that open for other people coming from afar to come do those same things as businesses. We cannot, as a country, develop if we don't attract foreign investment as well. It's part of the ways of financing what we do. So, policy side, definitely we have to encourage investments from abroad coming in. But we also have to be deliberate that what we attract coming in should be what we cannot do from within. And so that's why we have to develop ourselves, like I said, deliberately help our people to go up and run those businesses. Because again, the reality is there are demands. If we as a people are not organized enough to meet those demands, others can come in and satisfy those demands. So it is for us to take that challenge, realize that yes, there are those demands, and then deliberately we looked at demands in every single sector and develop ourselves to be able to address those demands consistently across sectors. I mean, there was a discussion about mining. How many small businesses have we developed to be able to provide services to the mining sector? The same for agriculture. The same for water. It is only when we're able to do that and these businesses can operate and respond to those demands that yes, we would say we would have secured that space for our people. So when we have our people strong enough, then they become priority too. When we have products that would ensure that if they need financing and they are private and they are citizens, it becomes easier for them to access those products by virtue of them being citizens. So you are not deliberately saying, oh, a foreigner cannot come and do this, but your people are strong enough to be able to compete, to be able to do those things.
All right, Nicholas, as we round off, now another thing again is digital entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Your story is a light to those who might want to involve in SME. You went to study for masters, and then you came as a businessman. You have people who have gone out of these countries, to study 2 or 3 masters, and they will just come with empty certificate, and then want to work in offices again. No business idea, no small innovative or business going on, and then you have also students or people who are transitioning, going into universities, who do not even have computer skills. All they know is social media and phones. And this day and age, you can even become an SME without even establishing a boutique or a permanent structure. You can be online and make money. But we have people who do not even understand the online space. How do we make sure young people come off social media and use the media for good? We now have artificial intelligence.
Yes.
We have AI. I can now design my flyer without even
going to be
contacting a designer now. So
yes.
we have these things, but people are not even using it. So how do we shift that trajectory? If we're not having the funds, or if we don't have the capacity to go into the actual